Hello, everyone. You're welcome to another episode of the Divine Utterance Show with Blessing Raji. If you're a new subscriber, you're welcome to my channel. The Divine Utterance Show is a platform where we invite several guests to talk about different topics encompassing all areas of life. On today's episode, we're going to be discussing about attaining academic excellence and balance. And this is definitely going to be an educative session. However, before I introduce my guest, we'll go on a very short break. Stay tuned to the channel. You're welcome back to the Divine Utterance Show. If you are yet to subscribe to my channel, please click on the subscription button. So as you can see, I have an amazing guest sitting right beside me. He is a final year student of Obafemi Awolowo University. He is a president of a fellowship and also a qualified chartered accountant. You're welcome, sir.
Thank you so much.
Sir, can you please introduce yourself briefly?
All right. Thank you. My name is Oladipo Isaiah. I'm a final year student of Obafemi Awolowo University from the Department of Management and Accounting. Thank you so much.
You're welcome, sir.
Yeah.
It's nice to have you around. This session is to enlighten you and clear some misconceptions about academic excellence and balance. Some people believe that if you must be excellent as a student, your spiritual life has to suffer for it. And that is the reason why we are having this session, to clear such misconceptions. So you're welcome once again, sir.
Thank you so much.
I have a question to ask. That's my very first question, which is that I've known you to be an excellent student. Were you always the excellent student as a child? Were you always the brilliant and smart guy as a child? Or can you just briefly walk us through the process?
Remembering some things I encountered while growing up, I could boldly say I was not even an average student. I was a below average student because I am the second child out of 4 children. And myself and my 2 other siblings, we were so close in terms of our age range. And going to school then, I remember I used to be the last person to be done in class during my primary education. And I could remember a day when I was in Basic 3, we called it Basic 3 then, my class teacher called me and it was like, will I continue this way? Because I was always coming 14th in class, 15th position. My best position then was maybe 12th position out of 22 students. And so until a point in time, that was when I was in Basic 4, I just determined I won't continue like this because my dad also believed that I had a low IQ. Even if you call him, he will tell you how amidst his children, I am the one having a very low IQ. And my siblings also believe that because once he asks us questions, I don't have answers to give to his questions. So, but the first thing that happened was a transformational experience I had when I was in Basic 6 primarily. That was when I started coming 4th position. I had 4th, all through my Basic 6. And then getting to secondary school also, I was so determined that I would live beyond my limitation because it was a weakness for me. A weakness because I don't remember things easily. I don't catch things the same class. So that has been one of my limitations and weaknesses. But throughout my secondary school experience, I was so determined. I was so purposeful. Even though I attended a public school, I was like, I would achieve the best out of this academics. So that was it. That was what transformed me, my determination.
All right. The first thing you said was determination. Like, can we say determination is enough? Because some people are determined, but what were the things that you did? Or you said you started seeing results. Were you more diligent with the study, or was it that a miracle just happened? Like, it just, aside the determination, what were the things that determination pushed you into doing?
Okay, till date, I can still say I still have the weakness anyway, but at the same time, there was this stigma amidst my people, my friends, my family members, that I'm having a low IQ. Even my younger sibling would tell me that to my face, but that spurred me up to action. I believe determination will spur you up to action, depending on the kind of determination you're having. Either it's a negative one or a positive one. But mine was a positive one. I had a positive determination to change things about myself, even though I still admit that I have the weakness. But that made me study more. That made me work with those that are doing very fine academically. That made me give preference to my academics.
Wow, that's amazing. One of the things that he said was determination, and determination led him to taking practical steps and actions, which reminds me of a struggle that I had in secondary school as well. I can remember I used to hate mathematics. I used to believe that mathematics was a very hard subject, and I used to become maybe second to the last or the last. So, but I got to a point where I was determined as well, and I said, I want to know this math. Like, I really want to know it. And I started investing in studying and just putting time, and it got to a point where I started becoming the second in class and first in class. So determination would definitely help you a lot. But I also want to ask, were you saved at that time? Like, were you a believer at that time?
Okay.
Or can you give all of the credit to your efforts, or how can you?
Well, I think my own belief is that this world works in two ways.
Okay.
God has designed systems and principles that makes this life work, even without the input of any man, any being, any divine being. The systems and principle works on its own. The system is like give and receive, pray and it will be answered, and like that and like that. Also, I also believe that God is sovereign and he works over the earth by performing his own will and making his own plans come to fruition. I can say it has a hand of God, and at the same time I apply the principle also. The hand of God in the sense that I got saved actually when I was in SS3. I got saved SS2. Yes, I got saved SS2. But I was given back to in a pastor's home. I grew up as a church boy, so I grew up in the church. So I was praying, and at the same time, I could say also that I was praying to God also to deliver me from that kind of a stigma. But I could say the stigma did not leave me. The weakness did not leave me. But I just grew over the weaknesses.
Yeah. Because I'm very sure that some people that are watching that probably believe that this is a problem. This is a village problem that probably their determination won't solve. So sometimes you just have to, in as much as God is always willing to help, you also have to take some steps. You also have to put in your effort, and that would help in the long run. So, sir, how can you define academic excellence? Some people's definition of academic excellence can be limited. For instance, some people believe that as long as you've not failed, you are still brilliant. I personally used to have a mindset that because when I got to uni, I didn't think first class was achievable. So I think that sort of made me settle for less. I always had this mindset that I always settled for less. I felt like as long as I did not fail, if I can have a credit, I'm fine. So how can you define academic excellence? Is it about grades?
Okay, for me, if I'm to define academic excellence, I would say academic excellence is dependent on your purpose and plan on wherever you are. Academics is a long-term thing, not just a short-term thing. So if you limit your scope of academic excellence to your university process, then definitely you are limiting yourself. So for me, academic excellence is being the best in my field. So part of being the best in my field is putting so much effort to gather enough knowledge in my place of study. For instance, studying accounting, definitely I should know everything towards related to accounting. Then in my second to the last year, my penultimate year and my final year, I was able to focus on the little things I want to walk through my life, so through my journey. So if you ask me things about my field of interest, I should be able to give you a number of things. So my own definition of academic excellence is not first class, which is a very good grade, is not having A in all courses, which is very good. But my own definition of academic excellence is the plan you have for yourself towards your academic pursuit.
So academic excellence does not have to be about grades. It's about being the best in your field, trying to invest in knowledge, trying to get better. You're not trying to prove any points. You're trying to just get better. You're trying to be the best in your field. So, sir, my next question is how to attain balance. Being the president of a fellowship and being an excellent student, how have you been able to balance it that one doesn't have to affect the other? There's this misconception that if you must be spiritual, then your academic will have to suffer for it. And if you must be excellent as a student, then you probably have to reduce spiritually. So can you strike a balance to that, sir?
Okay, I didn't start out doing very well. I think I was stirred up or inspired by those that welcomed me to campus. I was welcomed by someone who graduated with a 4.98 CGPA in my department, and he encouraged us then that you can attain 5.0. 5.0 in accounting is possible. So we're like, all right, we are going for 5.0. And at the same time, I came on campus with the mindset that really, because I had this notion before I entered campus that you settle everything about your life on campus. If you get so well spiritually, you have to do it on campus. If you get so well academically, if you be a great person in life, you have to settle it or start practicing it on campus. So that was my mindset. So I knew that if I don't do well spiritually on campus, I can't do well outside of campus. So I set a plan, I set a goal towards achieving the best academically, towards achieving the best too spiritually, because I don't just want to be a normal person. I wanted to serve God the right way. So that was it. So there was a goal, there was a plan, and towards both ends. So, and I was working towards it at every time. It was not quite easy because part one, I was carried as a mission secretary, and it was quite tasking. So I practically was down when I started out. I was crying out. I remember days I would cry to sports that God, will you save me from this? And that, I remember that was when I started my ICANN journey. And so it was not so easy. But I think when I was starting out on I think first semester part one, I prayed to God to give me reading partners and also prayer partners. So my reading partners were not necessarily my prayer partners, but they were the ones in class that would call me if I was not in class, that would show me their notes anytime I need it and their jottings. And my prayer partners are the ones that will call me to do prayer work together, to do Bible study, to do all those long prayers and invite me for meetings. So that was it. So this ones will be dragging me to spirituals. This ones will be dragging me to my book. So I had no choice because I've taken them as my friend. So I will respect who they are and honor them, to honor whatever they are inviting me to. So that was how I started out.
But were there times where you were affected health-wise because having to go for classes and attend to, spiritual activities? Were there times that you probably broke down and maybe it affected you? Maybe you didn't have enough time to sleep, having to read for ICANN, having to read for schoolwork, having to go for meetings. Like, how were you able to make sure that you were not affected?
All right. I was definitely affected actually, because I was not rightly mentored by those that are probably in my field. I was just inspired by someone and I went on my own. So I could remember part two. Was it part two second semester? No, part two first semester. I had very bad grades in some courses. That really affected me a lot. And that was when I was so much into the missions work. And I was still starting out, not too well. And I still want to love God and I still want to be fervent and things like that. So that was so serious on my part, because it really affected my grades. And there was a time too that services, activities were draining my personal work with God. Yes, because
even spiritual activities.
Yes, I cherish I value much of my work with God even than doing all of those things. So I was so much into church work and I neglected my personal prayer altar, neglected my personal Bible study. But I thank God I was able to get myself back, not by myself anyway, by those people that I set as systems around me. So that was what really helped.
Thank you very much, sir. So you must be in the right circle of people and you have to prioritize your relationship with God, your personal work with God and spiritual activities. Definitely, you should not forsake the assembly of the brethren, but you should be more intentional about your work with God, because out of it would, like, your work with God will flow to every other area of your life, including your academics. So to my last question, were there some mistakes? There's a popular saying that mistakes are inevitable. So there must have probably been times where you had some downtimes, or you wished, or maybe you probably wish there's some things that if you had known, you would not have done or you would have done. So can you briefly share those experiences with us and how you were able to pick yourself up and not, be discouraged? How you were able to encourage yourself and still keep on pushing?
Okay, I could remember my part two first semester result was a very bad one, because it wasn't as expected, and that was because that was when I started fully the whole work, leading people for the first time, having a lot of responsibilities, and at the same time, I was the class pastor of my class then
Wow.
too. So I had to juggle between all of these things. So I had a drop down, my grades dropped down, and it was really affecting and not so good. So what I would have done then was that I could have paid more attention to myself because I was getting weak academically. My gaze was completely shifted from my goals academically. So I just neglected them. I wasn't paying attention to them. I wasn't giving anything towards my academics. So most times I start classes. I was starting classes then too. So, but the reality dawned on me when I saw my results for the first time, and then the second semester too. So I had to pay attention to it, and I think I encouraged myself. I sought counsel. Number one, sought counsel, and then I drew out a new plan, goal, and I had to focus on those ones too. So I think those were one of the things that stirred me up again, and I got back to my feet.
Oh, wow. So, like you said, the first thing is to seek counsel and draw out a new plan. You should not give up and say, "Oh, this is the end of this. I'm not going to do it anymore." Some mistakes are the ones that help us, to become better. And if I may ask, sir, how did those mistakes help you?
Actually, after I forfeited the old long term plan that I had towards my bachelor's degree, I mean, academically, right here on campus. So I had to shift my gaze that, okay, if I cannot achieve or attain this height, yeah, I can still attain some other things. So that made me shift my focus from just BSc accounting to doing some other things. So the should I say the defeat now or the challenge I had channeled my attention to some other things. So I think that was when I started off doing some online courses, and I started putting some other things inside the box
Yeah.
so as not to be centered on just my
Yes.
BSc,
Yes.
knowing well that I can't attain what I wanted to attain at the first place, but I can still do some other things that will make it make more sense. So that was the thing. And it gave me a boldness and a confidence that even though I thought I had overcome all these academic issues, growing up and the likes, I can still go back to it. So I have to be guarded at all times, not to go back to it.
Yes.
So that was the lesson.
Thank you very much, sir. So you should never get to any point where you would assume that that's the end of the road. When one is not working, or when it seems as though your plan has failed in one area of your life, then try and stretch yourself. It's not a time to just give up and keep wallowing in pity, wallowing in regrets. Just draw out a new plan, seek the face of God, ask God tell God where you are now. God, where do we go from here and everything? So if you are watching or you've been struggling with your academics, I want you to know that you are not disadvantaged. Like he said, he was not the brilliant kid as a child, but he was determined and God helped him. So you should never feel like, oh, I can never be an excellent student. I used to have that mindset, but you don't know what you carry. You don't know how much of the potentials that God has embedded in you until you try to discover, until you move closer to God. So you should not allow your past results or your past failures to define your life. There is more to your life than your failure. So if you are struggling, I want you to believe that you can achieve and attain what you want academically, and it can strike balance. So all you have to do is invest in knowledge, be determined, fix your relationship with God and make sure that your relationship with God is right. So, and I pray that God will help you in Jesus' name. Thank you so much for coming, sir. It's such an honor to have you around. Thank you. Is there a word of encouragement that you would just say to the viewers before leaving?
All right, I would just use this to encourage every one of us that there is no balance between spirituals and academics. You are just a spiritual man trying to find your feet in the academics world because God has sent us to the world. So it's not like me putting two things together. It's me just picking one thing. Myself is being spiritual. I'm a spiritual man. So I'm trying to be academic, attain academic excellence or academic life. And it is God's plan for us to do good
Yeah.
and to be fine. But if you had a goal, now, as I said earlier, excellence is not the first class. Excellence
Yeah.
is not the A's alone, which may be part, but
Yeah.
excellence is the plans you had at first, the
Yeah.
plan God had for
For
you.
you.
So
Yeah.
if you felt like you can't attain it in your BSc, definitely you are not limited, and that's not the end of the road, because your
Yes.
academic is not limited to just your university
Yes.
life. You had your primary education, secondary education, and tertiary education. That's just your tertiary education. You
Yeah.
still have postgraduate studies.
Yes.
You still have some other professional things you can do. So don't limit academic excellence to just university. So you
Yeah.
can do better than that.
So don't limit yourself. There is more to your life than your academics. But as ambassadors of Christ, we must shine our light in every sphere of life. So we don't have to say, oh, because I'm spiritual, then we have to shine our light even in the academic area, so that some people believe that most Christians are dull, they are not excellent, but we have to change the narrative. And I pray God will help us. Thank you for watching. If you are yet to subscribe to my channel, please click on the subscription button and click on the like button as well. Thank you. See you on the next one. Bye.